really do need to invest in a new tripod. So let's get in where I fit in. Can I kneel? Yes. So emerging during the latter part of the 19th century and coinciding with the Edwardian period, this is the years from 1901 to 1910. The Singer 27 stands as a remarkable attestation to the Industrial Revolution and the transformation of domestic life during this time. It was first introduced in 1889, and it was part of a series that included the Singer 28 model. Mechanically, they were alike and shared the same sewing capabilities, but the difference lied in their size and portability. The 27 is a full-size machine, while the 28 was a three-quarter size machine meant to target a different market of users, those who needed more of a portable option and were limited in space. Together, the two sewing machines became emblematic of a shift from hand sewing to machine-assisted sewing and did significantly alter the garment making process. The Singer 27 machine featured a cast iron body that ensured the durability and the stability. But more importantly, it was capable of producing lock stitches. This was a fundamental function that laid the groundwork for future sewing machines.
1854 saw the first really practical lock stitch machine. It's still in working order today, though it does get the stitch sometimes. In 1861 came the device for moving the material after each stitch, but it wasn't very good for the material. A portable lock-stitch machine appeared in 1885. Though small, it did fine work. Nowadays, of course, you simply switch before you stitch. And isn't it strange that when girls wore all this, every stitch was done by hand, and what a labor of love.
So, to give you an idea, early Victorian and some later Victorian sewing machines primarily produced the chain stitch. This stitch used a single thread that looped back on itself and created a chain-like pattern on the underside of the fabric, while earlier machines used a looper instead of a shuttle. They were faster, and they also used less thread, but the stitches were prone to unraveling once they were broken, and this made it less ideal for durable garment construction.
Single thread or chain stitch machine, with the disadvantage that if the end of the thread was pulled, the whole lot came undone.
In contrast, the Singer 27 used a lock stitch, and this was a more strong and durable, but it also had a neat appearance.
With the lock stitch, the threads cross in the middle of the thickness of the material and are held firm.
This stitch would be shown on both sides of the fabric, and that was appealing. This was made possible by the machine's use of a new technology called the Vibrating Shuttle. It's similar to what we refer to today, the bobbin system that handles the second and lower threads in our modern machines. But this innovation meant a more strong and secure and less likely to unravel, making it ideal for seams, hems, and, well, general sewing skills.
In 1853, a Mr. Thomas of Cheapside confounded the doubting Thomases by patenting this lock-stitch machine. The shuttle bobbins were filled by an independent winder, and for sewing leather, it was the biggest thing so far.
Not to mention, the stitch was identical on both sides of the fabric. So in this context, the Singer 27 not only revolutionized sewing techniques, but the lock stitch was a game changer, as it now had set a new standard for stitch quality. So the 27's construction was innovative for its time, particularly for another significant advancement, and that was the introduction of the treadle mechanism. This feature allowed for a hands-free operation, and it was a substantial improvement over the earlier Victorian models that required one hand on the crank and the other to guide the fabric. Well, imagine trying to sew a straight seam while manually cranking the machine. It's both challenging and tiring.
It wasn't so long ago that any girl on a bike would have stopped the traffic, in this case unintentionally. In Victorian times, for example, the most energetic pastime for a respectable young lady was probably this. In 1835, this hand-operated machine was the last word in modern design, and if you were young and fit, you might reach a speed of 40 stitches a minute. Foolish, headstrong girl. Actually, sewing machines were first made in about 1790, although they were too crude to be used on clothing. They developed fast, but weren't used by the public until about 1839, and then only as a great luxury. So you can see why the rival claims of the songs, "Diamonds are a girl's best friend," and "The sewing machine's a girl's best friend," seem to have more in common than you might have first thought. This one, in fact, was called Prima Donna, although she was made of solid cast iron and weighed more than 40 pounds. About 70 years ago, portable machines for running repairs were the vogue. This one weighs about 4 ounces.
It was a slow manual operation, and this led to user fatigue during extended periods of use. But the treadle development made sewing more accessible because now it could be powered by foot, thereby enabling both hands to manage the fabric. It made sewing faster, smoother, and less physically demanding by reducing the physical strain brought on by the hand crank machine. So the 27 had now freed up both hands to guide the fabric. The machine's simplicity and ease of use also contributed to its widespread adoption, making it a staple in homes across the United States and beyond. So in this context of the Edwardian era, the Singer 27 symbolized the shifting roles and expectations of women. Victorian ideals often confined women to strict domestic roles and emphasizing modesty more and propriety. For example, women were expected to wear restrictive corsets and avoid public activities that were deemed unladylike.
And corsets were corsets and not girdles. Straight-laced and tight-laced. These were the catchwords of the times. Here from Britain's most comprehensive newsreel library, shots from when oomph was called deportment. By gad, Charteris, signal the Admiral to bring up their heavy cruisers.
But as society began to move away from these rigid norms, the Singer 27 facilitated a new sense of independence and creativity among women. I need to move from here because this is very uncomfortable. One of the most notable aspects of the Singer 27 is its significance in the context of home economics. As more and more women began entering the Edwardian workforce and the demand for ready-made clothing increased, the ability to sew efficiently had become vitally important. The 27 had now allowed women to create and mend clothing with unprecedented speed, forever changing the nature of domestic work. It was both a practical tool and a symbol of empowerment, enabling women to manage household expenses and participate more actively in the economy. Therefore, women began asserting their identities in diverse ways, and the 27 provided a means for their creative expression. It allowed them to craft their very own garments that reflected their very own personal styles. For instance, Women could now sew the popular Gibson girl blouses with high collars and puff sleeves, or create a tailor-made suit that was inspired by men's fashion, but now it was designed for the active Edwardian woman. Fashion during this time was anything but simple, if you know anything about Edwardian fashion. It featured elegant silhouettes, very intricate designs, and luxurious fabrics. And now, Edwardian women armed with the capabilities of the Singer 27, well, women could now replicate the latest trends in Parisian culture. And this would incredibly, absolutely incredibly, democratize fashion in an unprecedented way. This shift now meant that women could sew dresses adorned with lace and embroidery and intricate pleats of the era, styles that were previously accessible only to the wealthy. So this shift meant that the middle-class women could now participate in fashion and self-expression, and it helped them to move away from the confines of traditional domestic roles, freeing up time for other pursuits such as exploring opportunities for greater personal fulfillment and social influence. For example, a middle-class woman could attend social events in a stylish gown that she made herself, enhancing her social standing without significant expense. Now, the cultural significance of the Singer 27 extends far beyond its mechanical design. It's inextricably and intricately tied to the social change of the early 20th century, particularly concerning women's roles in society and the home. While the Industrial Revolution gained momentum in the background, transitional gender roles began to shift. Thus, the 27 and similar sewing machines became tools of empowerment for women who increasingly sought out to define their identities beyond the domestic boundaries of their home. Now, equipped with the ability to sew efficiently, it not only allowed women to create and mend clothing for their families, but it also enabled them to engage in entrepreneurial ventures like tailoring and dressmaking right from their very own homes. This contributed to a broader movement towards economical independence and personal agency. And who doesn't want personal agency? For instance, as the sewing machine facilitated the rise of home-based businesses, women began offering custom dressmaking services to their communities and earning their own income. This challenged traditional gender norms and at the same time contributed to their local economies. So as the 27 continued to play a vital role in the democratization of fashion, it's also important to note that before its widespread use, clothing was primarily handmade and costly on account of it, and made accessible only to the affluent. But with the introduction of the sewing machine, garment production became faster and more efficient. Women could replicate the fashionable styles of clothing magazines right at home, efficiently bridging the gap between haute couture and everyday wear. This allowed women to express their creativity and individuality through clothing, which went on to lead to the burgeoning culture of personal style, as women could now experiment with new styles, fabrics, and embellishments. This further contributed to the dynamic fashion scene of the era. So popular styles like the Gibson girl look, which featured shirt waists or blouses, had now intricate details like tucks, lace inserts, and high collars paired with their long, beautiful flowing skirts. The lingerie dress, for example, was a white dress that adorned lace and embroidery. It had now become a staple for summer wear and social occasions made by women themselves. Tailor-made suits allowed women to adopt more practical attire for activities like bicycling and walking. This reflected the changing attitudes towards women's independence and mobility. So the ability to sew these complex garments at home not only democratized fashion, it bridged class divides and fostered a rich diversity of personal expression in women's attire. Now lastly, the development of home economics, or home ec, as we refer to it today. But during the Edwardian period, it further influenced the significance of the Singer 27. Educational programs began incorporating sewing as a crucial life skill, emphasizing how important it was to manage a household effectively. Young girls and women were taught to transform worn-out garments into new items like quilts and curtains. In schools and community classes, learning to sew enabled women to contribute economically to their households. This not only saved money by reducing the need to purchase new goods, but it also ensured that families could maintain an appearance that matched social expectations of respectability. In a time when ready-made clothing was expensive and not accessible to all, the ability to sew provided families with economic stability by stretching limited resources. And socially, it allowed women to contribute visibly to the household's well-being, reinforcing their role in upholding family status and cohesion. So, in conclusion, and as you know, here we always conclude and summarize what we've discussed. And that is that, in conclusion, the Singer 27 sewing machine's cultural significance during the Edwardian period is multifaceted. It facilitated the democratization of fashion and personal expression. It also played a vital role in the suffrage movement, which I didn't include, and the changing dynamics of domestic life. As women continued to embrace the Singer 27, they found a means of empowerment, creativity, and activism for suffragettes. But it also reflected the broader social shifts of the time. Thus, the legacy of the Singer 27 remains a testament to how simple yet innovative a tool can influence the cultural landscape and contribute to social change. That is all, folks. So I want to thank you for joining me on this journey through the Edwardian era and the impactful history of the Singer 27 sewing machine. If you enjoyed this episode of Edwardian Era Bites, although I doubt I stayed within the 10-minute time frame, please do like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating insights into art and fashion history. Until we meet again.